Good evening, everyone. We are now convening the October 17th meeting of the Murrieta City Council. Bless you.
Bless you.
Well, what a way to start our meeting, sir. All right, moving on, roll call. Would Madam City Clerk do a roll call for determination of a quorum?
Councilmember Warren.
Present.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Here.
Mayor DeForest.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation. I'd like to have everyone rise. Pastor Victor Lopez from the House of Prayer Church will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance as well as our invocation tonight. Thank you and welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Let's put our right hand upon our heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't worry about it. Oh, they are.
Go the old-fashioned way. To the Honorary City Council, I want to thank you for this opportunity and for this invitation. It is said that you don't want to give a microphone to a preacher because we talk a lot. But I'll be brief. My name is Victor Lopez. I'm pastor Murrieta House of Prayer of the Apostolic Assembly of the Faith in Christ Jesus. 57 years ago, I was presented in a little white church that's here on Washington by Pastor Lester Freeman in 1966. And the church at the time was called Murrieta Unity Church. And in the year of 2000, my family moved to Murrieta. With God's help, we started House of Prayer. Never have I thought that I would be giving this invocation for this great city that we live in. Also want to thank some of our church members that are here to support in prayer also. As a church, we are called to pray for all those that rule and make decisions in our cities. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, it says, I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplications, prayer, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. And I'm going to ask you if you would close your eyes and let's bow our heads in a humble prayer before the Lord. Heavenly Father, we come before you to pray for this great city of Murrieta. Just as Moses, Daniel, and even Queen Esther had interceded for the people, we also do tonight for this council and for those that protect us from danger, for the businesses that provide for our families, for our schools and educators that teach our children, for the widow and the orphan, and for the progress of the city, that we can be an example to others, that that we serve a great God, so that we can continue to share the gospel message that can bring change to the whole world. Pour out your Holy Spirit upon all flesh. Fill us with wisdom and strength to make the right decisions that will please your will. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. May the Lord bless thee and keep thee. May the Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. And the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. We pray all this In the wonderful name of Jesus Christ, amen. Thank you, and God bless you, and God bless the city of Murrieta.
Thank you so much, Pastor Victor Lopez. Thank you for being with us this evening. Moving on to approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Seeing none.
All right, I'd like to call for a motion and a second. All right, so I know I moved it, and we all have moved it now.
I have Councilmember Holliday. Oh, it cleared. I'm going to reset it.
All right.
Can we try it again? Oh, there we go.
All
Too
right.
many of you were
John
doing
got in
it.
there fast, didn't he?
Guys, we're racing.
We're racing. Thanks,
Yeah.
John. Oh, we're doing it again? Oh, no. Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Lavelle and a second from myself. And then we need a vote. There we go. Thank you so much.
Here we go.
We're on task now,
Yes.
the city clerk.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. City Manager Administrative Update. Madam City Manager.
Had to find the button.
Yes.
So this time each year, Safe Family Justice Center comes, and usually we have a presentation with them to honor Domestic Violence Awareness Month. They weren't able to join us, but we'd like to thank them for everything that they do, and to recognize that, City Hall will be purple for the second.
Val.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since January of this year, Councilmember Lavelle and I have served on an ad hoc committee to address mental health challenges in our community. Two of the main goals of this subcommittee are to increase access to mental health services and increase awareness about mental health. We are incredibly proud to announce that this evening an official partnership will accomplish those goals and more by supporting access to mental health resources for all Murrieta residents, those who work in Murrieta as well. The city is partnering with Care Solace, an organization that bridges the gap between first responders, justice systems, social agencies, community-based mental health providers. They serve over 730 organizations across the United States, and we now offer their services free of charge for the Murrieta residents. Care Solace connects you to mental health and substance abuse treatment providers, regardless of insurance coverage. They also connect with those in need with social services like housing, medical aid, and food, as well as community-based organizations that provide social assistance. We've already held multiple trainings for city staff, and they are able to effectively use Care Solace as a resource when working in the community with community members. We want to spread the word to all of our residents so anyone has access to the assistance that they need. We are the first city in the county of Riverside to address this issue and partner with this agency. So with that, that concludes my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Lavelle, would you like
Yeah, I'll
to say
dovetail
something?
on that. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stone. One other thing to add, just for the businesses in the area as well, this could be a valuable resource for you and any of your employees that are seeking these types of services, because as you would imagine, it's a hard world to navigate. The Care Solace platform is a website. There's going to be a slide. I think it's going to come up.
It's up.
Oh, okay, that slide. Essentially, it's you're going to put in a call to this service. It's 24/7, 365, anytime, to do the care match possibilities on the website. Once the screening is done, they'll connect you with with that resource, they'll book your appointment, they'll do the insurance verification if that's even part of the process for the services you're seeking, and then they'll connect you, and then you'll be connected with that provider to help get you through what the service you're looking for. This, to echo again what Mayor Pro Tem Stone said, this is a great step forward for the city. I think it's an amazing resource that can be utilized in a number of different ways, and it's a step in the right direction to help answer some of the mental health crisis that I think everyone is facing in the nation, much less the world. So couldn't be more happy and happy to see this finally come to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It is nice to see this come to the forefront and be put into action. So thank you, everyone involved, staff, as well as my fellow council members. Moving on to governing board commissions. Councilmember Warren, would you like to start us off?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mayor. On the 13th of September, I attended the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting. At that meeting, there was nothing to report. And then this past week, on the 11th of October, I also attended the RCTC Commission meeting. The commission approved the draft of the 2024 Traffic Relief Plan for Public Outreach and Engagement and directed staff to return to the commission in early 2024 with the results of public outreach with a finalized 2024 traffic plan relief. This is where you'll have a say. If you're interested, please go to the RCTC website, get yourself involved, understand what they're trying to do, and this affects you, so please take a look at it. Now, on a lighter note, who thinks there's going to be traffic on the 9171 interchange? Oh, what a surprise. They're going to start closing it. It started last night. Monday through Wednesday, the eastbound 91 beginning yesterday, going through Tuesday, November the 21st, is going to be closed. The closures will allow crews to safely construct support structure, place beams for the new eastbound 91 to the northbound 71 connector. Know when the closures are. They are happening at night from 11 until 5 a.m. Just make your plans around that so you don't get stuck in it. There'll be additional closures going westbound after this is completed. Also, yesterday I attended the Riverside County Transportation Commission on the 79 Corridor Ad Hoc Committee. It was a Zoom meeting. We had a lot to discuss. Nothing has come from it, and I will report out as soon as I have some action. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Warren, Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if I have a slide or not, but I attended the SCFA financing. It's a financing authority for the animal control for the local cities. Pretty brief meeting. I chaired at this last one because our chair was out of town, but nothing to report, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lavelle. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if this is under announcements or reports, but I'm going to report on it anyhow. Met with staff and the community organizer for the Santa Stops, and I think she's got like 240 or 250 volunteers so far. We're having challenges to get them through the live scan process. They all have to be live scanned, so make sure that our children are safe. So if you've signed up for that, make sure that you get your live scan done with the police department. Her email is santastops@gmail.com. And if you want to just sing along with a couple of people, we just need people that want to sing Christmas carols. You don't have to be professional. You can sign up there as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
I have nothing to report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, and either do I, so thank you. Moving on. Public comments of a non-agendized items. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Shane Delisai.
Welcome, Shane.
Thank you. For future, it's Delisi, but it's okay. I won't hold it against you, Crystal. It's good. Well, thank you for having me tonight. Hello to our Murrieta City Council and our Mayor, Dr. Lisa DeForest. Thank you, and thanks for having me. My name is Shane Delisi, and this letter to you is all for the glory of God tonight. I've been a resident in Murrieta for 16 years. I know it's not long, but long enough. And I have to apologize up front that I have not been involved in local politics as probably much as I should, nor do I seek to be at times, but definitely have supported our city government and love living in this city. It has been a place of refuge for me and my family to grow and flourish, and for that I'm thankful. I'm a local pastor, and my heart is heavy for the murder of the unborn, and believe that every child in the womb should be protected and have equal protection. We want to call abortion for what it really is, according to God's word, murder. I also realize that I'm late in the game when it comes to what you and others have allowed in our city. It has been almost 2 months since Planned Parenthood opened their facility in Murrieta near the cross streets of Hancock and Murrieta Hot Springs. It has been brought in under the guise of helping women with reproductive services. What a lie. My heart is heavy, and I'm grieving the fact that the city I live in has allowed a murder mill and a baby butcher shop to be present here. This is an evil that has been allowed in our city. Tonight, I want to briefly share what God's word says about these issues. First, he's the one that has given your positions of authority. Romans 13:1 says this, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God." I know that God has put you in these positions for this time that he's allotted to you. Let me remind you, what you do and what you allow while you are in office will be judged one day before the Lord. There's a greater judge and a higher court. You have let this murder mill into Murrieta, and I would call you to hate evil and the murder of children in the womb and shut down Planned Parenthood in our city. You are culpable for allowing this evil to act within our city. Second, God is a creator of human life. Psalm 139:13, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well." God will not be mocked. He's the creator of human life, and you will answer to him just as I will on the day of judgment. I would love to be available to talk through these issues. I would love to hear why you allowed this evil business to be in our city. But thirdly and lastly, God hates murder and the shedding of innocent blood. Proverbs 6:16 and 17 says, "There are 6 things that the Lord Yahweh hates: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood." That's what's happening at Planned Parenthood. Do any of you share these same convictions? I would call you to make our city a sanctuary city for the unborn. Don't share in the murdering of life in the womb. I will be sending some other things to you guys as a city council to watch and be aware of. I'll end with this, Proverbs 24.
Thank you very much, Shane. Thank you.
Amy Edgeworth.
Welcome, Amy.
Evening, Murrieta City Council. I'm Amy Edgeworth, founder of Pearl Center for Creative Arts, and I spoke to you before about our nonprofit Cultural Arts Center and our shared dream for the Murrieta Train Project. But like a train, maybe I came into the station a bit too fast. So tonight, I'm going to slow things down and let you get to know a bit more about who I am. That means stepping into the shoes of my great-great-aunt Pearl, our nonprofit's namesake. Now, who is Pearl? It's a question I get a lot, and it's a question that has been asked in my own family for over 129 years. Even when folks find out who she is, they still wonder, why should they care? And what has any of this got to do with the train? So this is going to be a story and a trip through time. And more than Pearl, this story is about my grandpa Vic and his pa Holly. You'll come to learn Holly is Pearl's brother. Grandpa talked about his parents, Holly and Dean, a Taggart and an Edmondson, and how they once lived in a train depot as newlyweds, which sounds cuter than it was. Oh, how my grandpa just loved to share stories, the kind you might not believe. He talked of double cousins, it's not what you might think, how his sisters dared him to jump off the roof into their aprons, and he broke his arm, how he chopped off his big toe. Why were you chopping wood barefoot, Grandpa? And to top that, he'd share how on more than one occasion, all of his cut-ins, as he called them, got rounded up by the local sheriff, who was my great-great-grandpa Braxton Edmondson and Nola Dean's father. Yes, the Edmondsons and the Taggarts would be connected for years to come. But still, who is Pearl? Why should you care? To get to that, we need to go back before my grandpa was born, when Pearl was just a little girl born in 1870 and would become a school teacher at age 16. My great-great-grandparents, Samuel Otwell Taggart and Fanny Langley, had an incredible life, full of much joy and much sorrow, and much faith. And while it's true that many of my ancestors preached in their communities, that's not the faith I'm referring to tonight. They had faith in their communities and acted on their civic responsibilities. Building schools out of bricks, founding new townships, serving as postmasters, sheriffs, veterans, and more. And sure, I admit I haven't answered your question because all of this is why I care about Pearl. But it might not be why anyone else would. I care about Pearl and these stories because even in grief and sorrow, I choose to find strength and hope. In fact, through Pearl, we are all encouraged to make a choice to learn from the past, of stories of trial and triumph, of heartache and hope, and not in a way to romanticize, but in ways that tell the stories that connect us as a community. And that's what we're doing with the Murrieta Train Project. We're preserving history and using it as a canvas to inspire creativity and culture in our city. It's a project that embodies Pearl's spirit, connecting our past with our future. I invite you to consider why anybody's story matters. It's not just about one woman from the past. It's about honoring all of our roots and nurturing the artistic spirit that lives within each of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Faye Wands.
Welcome, Faye.
Let's see.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 25 years ago, when I moved into this area, and I live in the Alta Murrieta Triangle, we had trees on both sides of the street about every 15 feet. Over the years, I don't know whether it was disease or what, the trees were removed and not replaced. Now, last year I was able to get some trees put back on Daphne on one side of the street. But over the last few months, there have been several trees cut down. On the corner of Alta Murrieta and Daphne, there are huge trunks. They've been there for at least 6 weeks, and with a root about 4 or 5 feet across. It's really an eyesore, and I drive that street every day. So I would like to encourage the city to start replacing the trees that are cut down. Maybe they can't go backwards and do the ones from 25 years ago, but from here forward, every time a tree is cut down, to replace it. Our prevailing winds blow all that carbon monoxide from the 215 and the 15 into our area. We have Alta Murrieta Elementary School right there with kids playing out on the playgrounds. And it's just not healthy. So please do something to get the trees back. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye.
That concludes public comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar, approval of items 1 through 4. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests from the City Council to pull any consent calendar items from for discussion or abstaining from a vote? Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Seeing none.
I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I have a motion by Mayor DeForest. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
I don't see a second.
It's not,
I'm going to try and reset it.
okay,
There we go.
And a second by Councilwoman Warren.
Thank you.
Thank you. And a vote?
Okay, do you guys see that you can start voting? I think there's a little delay.
Okay. We have the motion up for us right now. Yeah,
Can we do a roll call vote?
sure.
Councilmember Lavelle,
Yes.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Councilmember Holliday,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone,
Yes.
Mayor DeForest.
Yes,
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
thank you so much. All right, moving on to our public hearing. Electric vehicle charging and housing element implementation and ordinance, MCA 2023-0001. We'll now move on to the public hearing. Are there any council members who would like to recuse themselves from this item? And staff, I see you are there. Can we have the report, please?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Tonight's item number 5 is the Electric Vehicle and Housing Implementation Ordinance. I'm City Planner Carl Steele with the city's Planning Division. With me tonight from our team is Associate Planner Taylor Grable, as well as Development Services Director David Chantranksu. And we also have the building official, Andy Crow, here with us if needed. So we have a brief presentation on this item in the interest of time. Quick background. The city has a climate action plan that was adopted in 2020 that provides a series of measures to be taken by the city over time to reduce emissions. We also have a housing element recently updated that the council adopted in June of 2023. The housing element includes a number of policy action items to be implemented over the housing cycle, which we're already in, with dates for certain times for implementation for those items. Tonight, we've combined an item from the CAP and an item from the housing element together in one ordinance. We did this because we received assistance from WRCOG over the past year through a grant from SCAG to prepare these two items at no cost to the city. So we therefore batched the items together to bring forward for your consideration. So regarding the EV item from the CAP, this relates to our CAP implementation measures in the transportation section of the CAP. You can see that list here. Measure T2 is the item for tonight. It's a near-term measure to adopt an EV charging ordinance, which when combined with T1 achieves a significant reduction in emissions, as you can see in the column on the right. This is kind of like the biggest item that we have. The EV ordinance we prepared has good timing, as this year the California Green Building Standards Code, CalGreen, was similarly updated, requiring more EV parking and charging requirements in January, so that's already effective. The city's policy T2 was prepared before the recent CalGreen update and envisions similar updates. The changes we propose are to definitions, standards, and requirements. So those are, we've made updates to the definitions and standards related to EVs, spaces, the types of equipment required, ensuring the standards comply with CalGreen. We've also updated requirements consistent with the CAP to require better level 2 chargers with garages, lodging, and non-residential uses. There are different standards in the code depending on the use, so it gets kind of complicated. This is somewhat simplified here. Implementation of this measure is another step to full realization of our qualified CAP and its streamlining benefits for projects and for the general plan. So, and then regarding the other part of the ordinance, the housing element implementation, we have policy action 19, which requires 6 specific actions to update our development code consistent with, in some cases, state law or requirements by HCD during their review of our element. So these came out of our 2-year review of the update with HCD and were incorporated in Chapter 4 of the housing element adopted by the council in June. So it's essentially things we said we would do once we got the housing element in place. So walking through each one, the first is to reduce the standard minimum lot size in our multifamily zones from 5 acres to 1 acre. We're the only city in the region that has a lot size higher than 1 acre for these types of zones. There's no other city with anything close. Having a higher minimum lot size is seen as a barrier to allowing developers flexibility for their projects. For example, if a developer or property owner had an existing 3-acre parcel in the city that was zoned multifamily, they could build housing on it, but they couldn't subdivide it. And this is a hindrance if they want to, say, finance 2 different housing products or 2 different phases, 2 different ways. They'd want to be able to subdivide the property. They wouldn't have that ability under the current standards if they needed to do that. The reduction in lot size allows that flexibility. And I would remind the council, as the council knows, we have new objective design standards that ensure we're getting the design and the form and the mass that we want in the city. So we don't see this lot size change as a significant change to the types of projects that we'll see in the city. We've got the objective standards to handle that. On reasonable accommodation, it's a relatively minor change. Reasonable accommodation relates to providing housing for people with disabilities under fair housing in state law. And we need to remove subjective language in that section, so we've proposed that change. The city continues to support this type of housing when it's proposed consistent with the code. Related to manufactured homes, we're updating the use type in the code and allowing for manufactured homes in all zones in the city. This was not, manufactured homes were not included in the city's multifamily zones previously. The state requires that they be allowed in all zones. Again, with the city's objective design standards, we don't think this creates new issues. We also don't have developers who've been asking for this. Typically, you see manufactured homes built in the rural and the single-family zones. But this change accomplishes what the policy action is seeking and also what the state has already told us is allowed anyway. For example, the state's told us if someone were to propose a manufactured home in a residential zone of any type in the city, we would have to approve it. Regarding parking for multifamily housing, the ordinance includes the removal of the requirement for enclosed parking on multifamily projects. In the state's eyes, this is seen as a barrier to potential additional units being built. They've essentially said this to us, that if garages are being built, those could be units. So they see that as a space that's a problem. Developers can still propose enclosed parking if they choose to, and some will do that. We have projects in process where developers are still going to build garages. That's their prerogative. But it wouldn't be a specific requirement in the code with this change. We do have adequate standards still to ensure parking is screened and located properly on the property with our design standards. This change is something that we do have a number of developers in the city that are anticipating this change with their projects. And quickly regarding the final two updates here, we've updated the conditional use permit findings for residentially related conditional use permits to remove some subjective language. We've retained that subjective language for any non-residential use with a conditional use permit, but this change is only necessary for residential uses related to the housing element, and that retains some local control. And related to emergency shelters, the city doesn't have one, but some jurisdictions in the state were requiring a significant number of parking spaces with shelters, which was making them difficult to locate. So to address this, the state put into law that cities can't require more parking than other similar uses in the same type of zone. So we've clarified this in the code. It's a simple clarification. So the recommendation from the Planning Commission was received on July 26th on this ordinance. And with that, we have a recommendation to approve a notice of exemption and approve the first reading to introduce the ordinance. And I should note that after a second reading and once effective, we would share the housing-related part of the ordinance for review and approval by HCD, which is required to sign off the policy action item for part of our housing element implementation. And with that, staff's available for questions or discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that report. I just have a couple questions for you really quick. Thanks to WRCOG for providing the funding to get this through. And these are coming forward because we have the approved housing element. And so this is part of the state of California's mandates for us to continue forward with that. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor DeForest. The housing-related items are essentially, we were told we had to do these items as part of our housing element, and we've included these in the adopted housing element. So we have to do these items. A number of them are related to laws the state passed during that 2-year process that we were working on the housing elements. They kind of kept adding them in as we were going through that process. So yes, they're mandates from the state.
So these are all California state mandates, and we really don't have an option to move forward, especially like for the manufactured homes, because the state of California says we have to. Is that correct? Local
Yep.
control is not part of this project.
Mayor DeForest, on the manufactured homes, we do not have flexibility there. The state essentially said now that they're allowed in every zone across the state that's zoned residentially, you can build a manufactured home. I would just comment, like I said in the presentation, we're in contact with multifamily developers every day, and they don't talk about building manufactured homes in multifamily zone properties. It doesn't make sense economically to do that. you do see people do them in single-family zones, which is where we already allow them, so.
Okay, thank you for that. And the lot change from the 1 acre to the 5 acres will only occur in the area with our multifamily. That's the only change.
Correct. It would only be in, Mayor DeForest, it would only be in multifamily zones. That's the one where we probably have the most ability to negotiate with HCD. Of course, we'll be sending this to HCD, and they might not like that we're still the highest lot size for multifamily zone properties in Riverside County. They might not like that, but we feel it's a significant change to drop from 5 acres to 1 acre. The next city with a lower lot size is actually the city of Riverside, has some multifamily zones less than an acre, around about 3/4 of an acre. Most other cities, including our neighboring cities, have like a half acre or a 1/4 acre lot size in multifamily zones. So it doesn't necessarily relate to the type of development. It really, like I said, is more about subdivision potential. Oftentimes there are old lots that are remnant lots left over, and people still find ways to fit projects on them. And we've had projects like that in the city on less than 1 acre. It happens.
Thank you. And the ramifications of not following this?
The state could revoke our housing element and then have their own permit authority for projects in our city, and then go and just approve projects without our authority.
Yes, thank you very much. That is all the questions I have, and I will move it to Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My questions relate to the climate action plan and the charging stations and that kind of stuff, because that's not mandated by the state, correct?
We can go
I know
back
it's a
to that.
yes and-
So
it's a yes
some
and
of
no
it
answer.
is, it's complicated, Councilmember Holliday. So some of it is mandated by the state. So if we look at this, so a couple things. One is we did a general plan update in 2020, as council members know, and Councilmember Lavelle was on the commission when we did that project. So we did a climate action plan that was embedded in our EIR for the general plan. So it's essentially things we said we would do as we rolled out the general plan. So we've committed ourselves to do these things. And then, since then, the state has done what we talked about, the Cal Green Building Standards Code. And we've adopted that as a city in January of this year. So the state actually did a significant chunk of what we thought we were gonna do with this item, with the Cal Green Code. Our changes just do sort of a little bit more than what the state code now requires. So that's what we've committed to do.
I understand that, and I appreciate that clarification. The standards that are proposed in this are, as you said, a little bit more stringent than what the Cal Green Building Code does. And it's fuel-specific, electrical chargers.
Correct.
And I'm sure you're aware that the state of California, I think, just got $1.2 billion to explore hydrogen fuel expansion, fueling stations, and other thing. Would it make more sense to be fuel agnostic when it comes to some of these policies, to let a developer decide what they want? Sure, today might be level 2 chargers. 3-4 years from now, it might be something entirely different.
I think it's all good, I guess I would say, under the cap, as long as it's reducing emissions. I think that's something we could look at. So something that the council may not be aware of is we're thinking about doing a cleanup of some of the general plan. And part of that will be looking at the cap again in the next year. And there may be a way to shuffle some of these items, or I guess trade off some items. And that would be something we could look at, would be, can we put maybe another measure in for alternative fuel vehicles and get some more emission reductions there? I would agree with that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you guys for the presentation. I know this is probably redundant, I guess, but the mobile home language, I guess. So am I hearing you and reading this correctly, that if, let's say, a vacant lot is zoned residential, someone could put a mobile home on it without any city involvement?
Councilmember Lavelle, no. I mean, they would need a building permit, but what the state has essentially told us is any city or county in the state can't say they have to build a stick-built building, that a manufactured home is a state-recognized dwelling unit type, and we have to allow them on all those properties. They've done similar legislation recently with ADUs, for example, where once you have one home, you can build an ADU on every lot that's residentially zoned in the state. It's the same sort of thought process.
And so in the unfortunate event of a house, like a tract house burning down, they could put a mobile home on that flattened lot?
Correct. A manufactured home, as defined by the state, a manufactured home.
And then the definition of a manufactured home is on wheels?
It's what's called Title 25 in the state. So the Title 24 is the energy regulations that a lot of people may be familiar with. Title 25 is the manufactured home, sort of essentially building code for manufactured homes the state regulates. So it has to qualify as a manufactured home. It's not necessarily like an RV. It's
Okay, so there is
like a-
distinct language that
Yeah,
separates those two.
they're built in factories only in the state. You're not allowed to bring in manufactured homes from other states. They have to be built here. There's an insignia that's put on them that they're built in California, and then they're like single wide, double wide, triple wide. There's a certain way they have to be installed, but yes, they could.
And then on the current new builds we have, I know there's some updated fire law that for sprinklers and materials that can be used in housing. Are the mobile homes going to be held to that same standard if the event happens that they're replaced?
Whatever's currently required for a home that would be in our fire code and building code, yes.
Okay.
I'd say Councilmember Lavelle.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lavelle. Now, we'll move to open the public hearing. Fantastic. I want to open the public hearing. City Clerk, is there any public testimony?
Seeing none.
All right. Any other questions from my fellow council members? Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I mentioned in my questions, I think the government, state government, is mistaken to promote one fuel source over another. Zero-emission vehicle as electrical vehicle, I think, is inaccurate. The electricity to charge it certainly produces pollution. The batteries, when they have to be recycled, certainly are toxic, and we don't have a really good source of where to put those. I'm not a fan of government telling the public what they need to do. It's good to have a goal, and we certainly want to take care of our planet, but to say you have to use an electrical vehicle, you have to use this type of fuel source, I think just like back to VHS and Betamax tapes, the public decided what the better technology was.
Now you're dating yourself.
I'm dating
Yeah,
myself big time.
way back there.
But it's the public decided, and the public should decide what's best in this case. And so I would encourage whatever minor amount of input we have at the city level, that we be as fuel agnostic as possible. So maybe not for this item, but maybe for some future stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. All right, I'd like to close the public hearing. I'd like to call for a motion in a second. I think we all have motioned. Oh, now it goes. All right. We are having a little technical difficulty, so we apologize for. And then we'll take a roll call vote. Roll call vote on this. Councilmember Lavelle.
Yes.
Councilmember Warren.
Yes.
Councilmember Holliday.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone. Yes. And myself, yes. All right.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, staff, for that report as well. Moving on to the Ivy House Master Plan, second reading. We are now moving on to the public hearing that was continued from October 3rd. Before we begin, are there any council members who may like to recuse themselves from this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to recuse myself from this item as I own an investment piece of property 500 feet from this project.
All right, well, we will call you when we are done.
Thank you.
All right, staff, welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor DeForest. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Warren and distinguished council members. My name is Aaron Rentamaki, and I'll be presenting the continued hearing planning staff report this evening. As Mayor DeForest mentioned, on October 3rd, we reviewed the project proposal with the first reading of the ordinance for the master development plan. The City Council received public testimony and had asked for more information on alleyway lighting and on-site recreation. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Council kept the public hearing open to tonight's meeting. There were a couple of follow-up items from the last meeting on October 3rd. Those were lighting and recreation amenity. Staff has seen some preliminary information from the applicant on alleyway lighting. We will work with the applicant and the police department on satisfying the conditions of approval to bring lighting into compliance and ensure public safety needs are being addressed. In response to Council's request on recreation, staff identified the potential for room to provide a tot lot. Preliminary engineering documents indicate that there is a possibility that the larger detention basin would be sufficient for this development and that the smaller detention basin may not be needed. This is an area for potential to add a recreation amenity, such as a tot lot. And with that said, it's staff's recommendation to consider adopting the mitigated negative declaration, conduct the second reading of the ordinance, and approve the resolution with the added condition for adding the tot lot to the project site if feasible. That concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the tot lot possibly being added as well, because I know that that was some concerns from the community. So let's see. So do we have any questions from staff, from any of my fellow council? Seeing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. City Clerk, are there any public testimony starting with the applicant, proponents, followed by opponents, closing with neutral comments?
Okay. I apologize, Madam Mayor. Is the applicant here to speak? I don't have a card.
Yes.
Mr. Ramaya?
Yes, we have the applicant, Nolan Leggio.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just here, myself and our team here, if you have any questions, our civil engineer, Justin Brown, project manager, Jason Holt, and our CEQA consultant, Hunter. So if there's any question for our team, we're happy to help, but we gave them a sort of presentation 2 weeks ago. So
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
sir.
Yes, Madam City Clerk. Do we have any proponents?
We have, well, I have Terry Kunkel or Tori. I apologize, Tori.
Welcome, Tori.
And she didn't put a status.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Tori Kunkel, and I've lived here for over 36 years. And it was very interesting finding out that the name of my business, the Ivy House, is the same name as the development. I tried to get a hold of the people responsible, but when I called the city, they had no mention, they had no idea the Ivy House development even existed. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention, and because I was trying to do this a little covert before I came here tonight. But if I could talk to the people who are doing the development, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because I've actually been to the city and I'm in the process of getting licenses for my own business called the Ivy House. So that
Well,
was.
you picked a good name.
Well, I've used it for over 25 years, so it's interesting. But as to the development, I am concerned with the traffic, as I'm sure everybody is, because it's already a nightmare. But I live at the end of Ivy Street, and as far as the lighting goes on the development, I would like to see less, because we've already got too much lighting as it is in Murrieta. So that's my concerns. But that's it.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa Blyfus?
Hi, I'm Teresa Blyfus, and thank you. I talked at the last council meeting, and I wrote a letter to all the council members, and Mr. Holliday responded like within 10 minutes. I had a response. So thank you very much for your response. A couple of things that were not discussed was that I know the ADU situation, that the state is mandating that we cannot say no. However, like the gentleman in the previous said, you cannot say no once the building is built. That does not mean that you have to say no or that you can have to say yes now. This development is putting 2 residences on every property. That is double everything. So I understand there's going to be mailboxes for the street address A and street address B. That is going to solve where you're going to be getting your pizza, but that is not going to solve the fact that is now a multifamily dwelling. So is it single-family homes? Not anymore. So I urge you to have the builder have it at least an option. Don't have it as a sales tool like a council member Lavelle pointed out last month or the last council meeting. This is their ploy to be able to say, hey, you can have an automatic rental. Like we don't have enough rentals that are going in this area. Traffic is going to be horrendous. I'm concerned about the flooding. I live on 4th Street, and if you look at the renderings, what they're doing is elevating their land so they don't have to be in the floodplain, so they don't have to pay for flood insurance. Great. Water doesn't flow uphill. So where is it going to flow? It's going to flow right into my street, which is the direct access. How long is it going to be before we are mandated to have streets, sidewalks, and then parking for all of these people that are going to be in front of my house? I, like the lady previously, would like less lights. I'd like no, I sit out and watch the owls at night. That's not going to happen once all this happens. So I urge you to at least make it an option to buy, not a mandated that every residence has a rental unit. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Janine Reed.
Welcome, Janine.
Mayor, council members, I've lived here for 50 years. The housing tract that they're proposing, it's just ridiculous. 62 homes on 22 acres. It's horrible. The schools are already overpopulated. The traffic in the little town is horrendous when the school's let out. This has been an equestrian community. That's going to drive them out too. On the master plan, I saw how big of the developer to leave one 63rd home off the track for open space. It's just not. This is what Murrieta was great about, the open space. It's going to ruin it. They've already ruined East Murrieta. Now they're going to work on this side. The only thing stopping them is the mountains. I am totally against this. Maybe half the amount of homes. That would be more realistic. I just can't process that 62 homes on 22 acres. You're going to hear your neighbor flush their toilet. Where's all the cars going to go? How many children are going to... They're already trying to build more onto the elementary school, and it's not going to be adequate. The people moving in, they're going to complain about flies because of the little few horse ranches that we do have right on Hayes, where the Murrieta Ranch, Murrieta Stud. She bequeathed that land to the city, I believe, on Calmia and Hayes, with the idea that equestrian would remain a focus. I guess that's gone out the window, just like everything. I don't know, is it already a done deal? I'm speaking for nothing. Sounds like it. And yeah, no lights. Everything is, all the wildlife is leaving anyhow. They're being destroyed. Look at these condos that they're building, 3 stories high. What the hell's going on?
Thank you so much.
Catherine Wingert.
Welcome, Catherine.
Hi, my name is Catherine Wingert. I live right down the street from the proposed Ivy House. And while I would much prefer to look at the beautiful meadow and our area as is, growth is happening. And I think this next generation of style of homes is really great to have for our area. I'm really excited about that. And I love the addition of the tot lot. I know when the city did a presentation one time, they spoke a lot about the Pioneer Park that's going to grow with the master redevelopment plan. So I don't know if there's a way to have the tot lot somehow contribute to that Pioneer Park expansion, or have this developer somehow work toward the growth of the Pioneer Park right next door. In addition to that, the growth comes, as we know, 62 homes with ADUs. That's a lot of people. We need lights. I have young children. There's alleyways. There's the creek. For our safety, we need to really have some sort of lighting, and unfortunately that does let go of some of the beauty that we have in that area, but it's at the importance. It's more important to keep our children safe, and I think that there will be a lot of children in this area. I would like to see if learn about any sidewalks or curbs that will be placed because of this development on B Street. And with that, thank you for your time. I'm really excited about this development. I think it will be really great for our area.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any more public comments?
That concludes public comments.
All right. Would you like to come back up? And provide anything else?
I can respond to a couple of quick things I think we talked about a couple weeks ago, but parking, I think with our project, address the parking sufficiently. I think our minimum parking on an individual lot is 5 stalls. Some of them have more than that, and that doesn't even include the public streets we have on site. So again, something we thought planning up front rather than dealing with an issue afterwards is the correct way to do that. The lighting, we're in support with the staff's condition. It wasn't something we originally proposed. It was something the Planning Commission added. I get their sensitivities on both sides of that. So I think working with staff after, we can come up with a way that addresses the security concerns, but also recognizes the sensitivities of the public. Other than that, we agree with everything in the staff report and are excited to move forward with this project. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. All right. Any questions of my fellow colleagues? All right, I'll close the public hearing and I'll call for a motion and a second.
We're going to try it one more time, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, see, they're not seeing it.
Yeah, will it go?
No, I can tell you, it's not, yeah.
It's not going. Yeah, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Lavelle?
Need to call the motion out, I think.
Oh, I need to call the motion. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Holliday making, no? I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lavelle.
And a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember
Seconded.
Warren, and now a roll call vote, sorry. Councilmember Lavelle?
Yes.
Councilmember Warren?
Yes.
Councilmember Holliday?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion carries 4-0 with Mayor Pro Tem Stone recusing herself.
Thank you so much. And I will call a recess until 7:30. When we come back, we're all going to adjourn to outside by the flagpole. And we will be doing a candlelight vigil between City Hall and the police station. So if you all would like to head out that way with us, and we will return back at 7:30. I'd like to reconvene the Murrieta City Council meeting, October 17th. Thank you all for allowing us a little break to give our prayers and love to Israel. And moving on to discussion.
Madam Mayor, before we continue.
Oh, we need a quorum again. That's right. Sorry.
All right.
Could you please make sure we have a quorum?
Thank you. Councilmember Warren?
Here.
Councilmember Lavelle?
Here.
Councilmember Holliday?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone?
Here.
Mayor DeForest?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing we have a quorum, Madam City Clerk. Moving on to discussion. Award and a license agreement for special events management services for Town Square Amphitheater and amendment of Town Square Park and Amphitheater usage policy and operations framework. Staff, may we have a staff report? Welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Kristen Crane, Assistant City Manager. Before you this evening, item 7 is an item to award a license agreement for special event management services for the Town Square Park Amphitheater, and also to amend the Town Square Park and Amphitheater use policy and operations framework. Sorry, trying to click. Perfect, thank you. So this action represents the culmination of many months of effort and several years worth of City Council discussion, and this being an interest of the City Council in order to activate the amphitheater as an amenity for the community. With me tonight is Community Services Director Brian Ambrose, and I also want to acknowledge the hard work of Special Events Supervisor Laura Frasso, who's played an integral role in this process as well. You may recall that back in April, staff presented to you for your approval a proposed use policy and operations framework for the Town Square Park Amphitheater that set the stage for how that space would be used, can be used, as well as by which organizations in our community can use that. And there were 3 overarching goals: to take care of the facility as an asset for our community, to be a good neighbor, and also to activate the amphitheater in order to add vitality to the community, and also as an economic development driver to offer events that create a new draw for visitors to Murrieta. At that time, the City Council also directed staff to go forward with a request for proposals process for special event management services, and we now have completed that process. We opened the RFP back in early June through July, and working with the City Council subcommittee of Council Members Holliday and Warren, we conducted the interviews in August, and we are very pleased to announce the recommendation that the City Council award a license agreement to Newman Hospitality Group. Newman Hospitality Group is owned by Brandy and Ken Newman, which are the owners of the Stampede in Temecula, as well as the Canyon Cowboy in Canyon Lake. And they are the producers of the annual Old Town Music Festival in Temecula. And Brandy and Ken are here this evening, and you will hear from them in just a few moments. As part of the license agreement, Newman Hospitality Group is proposing to produce and host 4 events at the Town Square Park Amphitheater in 2024, starting with a Jazz and Blues Festival in April, the 2-day Old Town Music Festival in June, a country music concert in August, and a Rocktoberfest concert in October. These events would be in addition to the full lineup of annual events that the city hosts each year, as well as other potential new events that could be brought forward by community groups that are authorized to use the space, which is in accordance with that use framework that you came up with back in April. As part of the scope for the what NHG will be responsible for, all aspects of these events from start to finish, which includes all of the logistical details, marketing, entertainment, the sound, the lighting equipment, food and drinks, security, public safety, traffic, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, if it is required for the event, it's part of their responsibility. And the financial terms are such that they will be then, after being responsible for the full cost of producing the event, including any costs that are borne by them associated with the city, so that includes public safety, there would be a revenue share if there's any net revenue, up to 5% of the net revenue would be shared with the city after all those expenses are considered. So in reaching this agreement with Newman Hospitality Group, there were several elements of the use policy and operations framework that you adopted back in April that we discussed and that we're recommending for minor modification. That was proposed as part of attachment 2 that was included in your agenda report. So the changes include allowing the service of hard alcohol in the ticketed VIP area only, and there would be very heavy management and security protocols associated with that. Also allowing the sale of canned hard seltzer beverages and canned spirits or cocktails up to a 13% alcohol by volume, which is comparable to both beer and wine. And both of these changes are based on extensive discussion with Newman Hospitality Group, including our police and fire chiefs, and ultimately feeling comfortable with what's proposed and the way it would be managed. Another change is that we would be allowing there to be a VIP parking area, which would include premier parking as part of the VIP ticket price. Otherwise, one of the stipulations of our use agreement is that there be no paid parking to make sure that the patrons there's not the unintended consequence of them parking in the surrounding neighborhood to avoid paying. And then lastly, allowing sponsorships of alcohol-oriented businesses solely in exchange for in-kind contributions. So for example, there's a common practice in the event industry, as we've learned, that for alcohol-oriented businesses that they provide deeply discounted alcohol for sale and use of their booths and the equipment that's used to serve the alcohol at the events in exchange for sign placement. So no other changes are proposed for the use policy operations framework at this time. So this is considered a 2-year pilot program. Though NHG is opting to host 4 events in 2024, the agreement would allow them the option to go up to 6 events in 2025, year 2. And as part of the pilot program, we can and we will evaluate how this works, not just for the arrangement with Newman, but also for other groups that are coming in using this space as well. What worked, what didn't work, and then revisiting that as part of our pilot program at the end to look at what modifications we may want to make. The agreement also affords us a lot of flexibility in terms of the opportunity to look at anything that's not working after 1 or 2 events to make modifications. And I think we can say that in all the conversations that we've had getting to this point, we have found Brandy and Ken to be very good partners and wanting to really work with the city, and that, so I feel positive and optimistic that we all want this to be successful for the community. So overall, related to the council's broad goal of activating this space, in addition to bringing this agreement forward in the coming weeks, we are going to also be coming back to you with a fee schedule for other groups that want to use the space, groups that are allowed according to the use policy. And then after that, we'll be starting to communicate with those groups in order for them to know that this is available to them, and then to encourage them to come forward, and we're excited to see what ideas they may have. In conclusion, staff and the City Council Subcommittee are recommending that the council approve a 2-year license agreement with Newman Hospitality Group as a pilot program for the Town Square Park and Amphitheater. And with that, I'd actually like to turn it over to Brandy and Ken to introduce themselves. And then after that, I'll turn it over to the subcommittee council members, Warren and Holliday, to add any comments that they may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Ken Newman, and this is my wife, Brandy, and we are the owners of Newman Hospitality Group, and we started the company because we have a passion for producing quality live entertainment events, and we've been very successful in that. So we look very forward to this opportunity to do that here with the city of Murrieta and the beautiful amphitheater.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience tonight, sitting through a long meeting tonight, so thank you. All right. Now I'll move to council members' questions. And Matt, oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Ron, go ahead, take it away as part of the committee that put this whole thing together. So thank you to Councilmember Holliday and to Councilmember Warren. So thank you for all your work and dedication on this. I know it takes a lot, and thank you, Kristen, for your time as well. So.
And I should note that Councilmember Warren has been doing it longer than I have, at least a year longer, I believe. And one of the things I wanted to point out, a couple things, is one, it is a pilot program. We're learning as we go. Where Newman Hospitality Group has been doing events for a while. The city of Murrieta has not to this scale. So we found them to be agreeable and flexible in what we were looking for. After the request for a proposal, we only had one company that came forward and did what we asked. And initially there was talk about, well, maybe we should go back out. And I know Assistant City Manager Crane spoke with all the people that were interested at the time and found out the reasons why and why not, and we're learning from that process, certainly. But I felt myself, and I think Councilmember Warren agreed, somebody did what we asked, they should be given a shot to have an interview. And I'm glad we did, because we were impressed with Newman Hospitality Group. We were impressed with what they planned to do. And since it's a pilot program that's 2 years, felt it was a great opportunity to learn and see where it goes and see what we can do. And then at that time, at the end of the 2 years, we can make a choice at that time whether we're continuing forward or putting out for RFP or renewing the agreement. Councilmember Warren?
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Councilmember Warren.
Thank you so much. To say that this has been a long process is an understatement. This is one of my first committees I was assigned to, and I joined the council 2 years ago. I can assure you that our staff, and together with Councilmember Holliday and I, have looked at every possible scenario we could have by putting this together. We have tried to dot every I in every sense of the word, every T possible. We have gone into this with eyes wide open, trying to think of what could go wrong, what won't go wrong, what could go right, what we want to go right. It all comes down to trust. And I do believe we've picked the right company. I believe they are in it for the right reasons. I believe that this amphitheater needs to be shown off to the world. And I want to thank not only Assistant Manager Kristen Crane, but Brian Ambrose, Laura on his team. The entire group of us did not take this lightly. This is a heavy burden for us to do, and we did it willingly because we want it to be right. There might be a few things that go wrong, and with a pilot program, we have that in this program to fix it. So I say, hooray for everybody. Thank you for the opportunity and for partnering with us. Thank you, Ron, for all that you did, and staff. Just outstanding work, and I know this wasn't easy. And I look forward to the very first event. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Warren. Any comments from my fellow colleagues?
I have a question.
Councilmember Stone.
Thank you so much. Assistant City Manager Crane, in this contract, is there a specific language if we need to cut ties with the Newman Hospitality?
Yes, there's typical within our standard agreement, there's language that relates to that. So there is one provision where it's a 30-day, if there's a material breach of some type that change needs to be made, or 180 days for no reason.
Okay. And with regards to reevaluating them, you had mentioned that you would reevaluate, are we going to do it after each event to make sure that they're in compliance, to make sure that there's not any unforeseen hiccups that maybe the group didn't realize? I mean, that's a possibility. So will you be reviewing everything after each event?
Yes, so after every major event that we have in the city, whether it's with our signature events and so forth, we always go through sort of an after-action process and evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and that we would look at that in relationship to how we're preparing for the new events. And I think as well as we think of what are the things we want to be thinking about, kind of big picture related to how this arrangement works for the pilot. If there's feedback that the council has on specific things that you would be interested in, those are certainly things that we can be tracking as well.
And is it normal protocol for the two council members to be part of that recap? Or is it typically just staff?
Well, with most of our city events, we don't have council subcommittee that's part of that. So that would be up to the council's discretion. But typically, we would do it at the staff level.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That concludes my questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stone. Councilmember Warren, did you?
I wanted to answer that question for Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, I do believe Ron and I will be sitting down with them at least after the first event, and at 6-month periods, we will be involved in those meetings. Okay?
Thank you. Councilmember Lavelle.
Yes, thank you. I came into this, I think, after a couple of years of conversations with staff and the vendors. It's very exciting. I'm a little shocked that only one company actually gave a full RFP back to the city. So thank you guys for doing that. Thank you for following through. I look forward to seeing what this turns into, because from my perspective, this area, this amphitheater has a lot of potential, and I think it's going to be awesome to see, the concerts especially. The one question I had with the profit sharing arrangement, obviously it's in both parties' interest to make these events do well. Is that a reconciliation done after every event? Is it yearly, quarterly? How does that look? And is it up to the same thing as not to exceed? So the 5%, is it not to exceed 5%? Or is that's of the profit?
Right, 5% of their net profit is what is stipulated would be shared with the city, net revenue.
Okay.
Yes. So in terms of the reconciliation process, there's a provision associated with the agreement in Exhibit C, additional provisions, where it spells out a little bit of a process. And there, I believe it's within, I think we said 60 days of the event that they would be providing, because there's a reconciliation process on their end as well after the event in order to pay the vendors, and they would be providing that to the city, and there would be a review and discussion and so forth, and then a payment process accordingly. So it is after each event.
Okay, and then I guess my last question, on public safety of these events, some of them seem to be able to be very large scale. Is our PD and fire staffed enough to handle everything, or will there be some outsourced support for that?
Yes, so we spoke at length with Newman Hospitality Group about their security protocols, as well as for kind of public safety in general, including Chief Malloy and Chief Conrad. And they do have a team for security that includes private security and their own security team that they already have for their events as well. And it would be then in combination with representatives from our police department and our fire department as well.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavelle. Seeing no other questions, I'll move to Madam City Clerk. I see there is a public comment regarding this discussion item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Casson Klein.
Welcome, Casson.
Good evening. I sent comments in yesterday. Mayor DeForest, I appreciate your acknowledgement of receiving those. Additionally, Kristen was kind enough to call me yesterday, and we spent about 45 minutes on the phone discussing those comments. And while we didn't reach agreement on any of those things, I certainly appreciate her reaching out and appreciate that communication. In my experience, RFPs are either written so narrowly to focus towards one vendor, or they're so vague that no one wants to respond to them. So I think there's a problem here with one vendor that's responded. You guys don't have a choice. There's only one choice, so that isn't a choice. I think that by virtue of these proposed changes, the RFP, these should be added to the RFP, and it should be reissued, republished. It seems to me, one of the things that Kristen said yesterday that really hit home with me when we were talking about how important this venue is and this policy and this vendor, and even Councilmember Warren said, you know, to show it off to the world, right? And Kristen said that the council subcommittee has a vision for the community. And it dawned on me that the vision for this park predated any of you that sit up there and anyone that works here. And how can a subcommittee of two who are our new council members know what the vision is for our community? It seems to me that something so important like this should have an outreach similar to a specific plan amendment, where we impanel a committee of community members, a broad cross-section, and we host community meetings like we would with a general plan amendment or a specific plan amendment, and get the buy-in from the people, from our community members. If it's that important, and then we write a policy in an RFP and we send it out and we see what we get. Seems to me like we're very, very focused, perhaps narrowly focused, and we're just trying to get something off the ground and let's see if it works. And we know by Get Shamrocked, we know how that worked. Maybe the five of you up there don't know, but I have firsthand knowledge and know how it worked and the work that went into it. So I'll wrap up here real quick. It's my recommendation, again, based on staff recommending changes to the RFP, the program, that we republish it and send it out again. Thank you.
Thank you, Casson. And yes, I did receive your comments as well, and I appreciated those. All right. Any other members from the public that would like to speak?
Seeing none.
Thank you so much. Moving back to any council member discussions or comments.
I have a comment. I do believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the public did have an opportunity to speak on this subject at a workshop. Is that not correct? Quite some time ago, before the subcommittee was even made up.
I believe we've had a few workshops.
Several workshops. So there has been public input. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't remembering or was remembering correctly. Although we may be on this council a very short time, that doesn't mean we're not involved citizens. I know I've only lived here 10 years, but I've invested 10 years into this community. And I was involved with Get Shamrock, and there was a lot of work. Trust me, this wasn't looked on upon lightly. We worked really hard to come up with this, and I'm really proud that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holliday, any other questions or comments? Stone? No.
I have one
All right.
question, sorry.
Sorry,
I
I have no speakers, so yes, we are ad-libbing up here this evening.
The proposed changes, were those sent out before the RFP was closed for the city or after?
The proposed changes to the use framework came up through the process of discussion with the proposed vendor.
After they had already responded.
Which is within the purview of how an RFP process works, different from like a bid process where the terms are absolutely set in stone. This the nature of the RFP process allows for that type of discussion and negotiation between the city and a prospective vendor.
And with that nature of doing it that way, how free is that, I guess, return questioning or the reproposal of items? Like, if there was 4 items listed there, certainly it reaches a point where it would change the whole definition of the proposal at more, right?
Right, and so the discussion where it came to be, they didn't ask for those changes right off the bat. That surfaced through the process of discussion of understanding the framework for how their operations would work, and then in consultation with the city attorney, reviewing the scope and nature of that to confirm that that fit within where we were at and how that would work and moving forward accordingly.
So it would be safe to assume those proposed changes fit within the idea of the RFP as it was sent out initially?
Yes, they're part of the
They were
framework
close
for
enough.
operations, and so, yes, they're considered to be, it's within the council's purview to make that determination of how the overall space will be operated.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you for clarifying.
I just have one closing comment. In the public safety aspect, our chief has also agreed that all of the provisions that have been asked for are congruent with our current public safety.
Yes, as I mentioned, we had an actual separate meeting with Newman Hospitality Group, including Chiefs Conrad and Chief Malloy, specifically to talk through those areas so that they could share with our chiefs how they handle public safety, their staffing, the structure of that, and ultimately they both felt comfortable with moving forward and how Newman Hospitality Group approaches that.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other comments, then I'd like to call for a motion and a second. And we're going to have to do this verbally. So if I have a motion,
I'll make the motion.
thank you,
I'll
Councilmember.
second.
All right, and then I'll have to call the question. Councilmember Lavelle,
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember Warren,
Yes.
Councilmember Holliday,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Yes.
And I am also a yes, and I'd like to welcome Newman Hospitality to the Murrieta Amphitheater, and we're excited for 2024 with lots of amazing events. So thank you, and we greatly appreciate you being here tonight. So, and thank you to everyone for all their work on this, and it'll be nice to see the amphitheater come alive. All right, got that, Madam City Clerk?
We have governing body announcements.
I know, here we go. Let's go.
Unless
Governing body
anybody-
announcements. Governing body announcements, opportunity for City Council to provide miscellaneous reports and announcements. Announcements shall not exceed 2 minutes, everyone. And the city clerk will use the computerized timer, which is not working this evening, but we will have the somewhat timer, cell phone timer. So, Councilmember Warren.
Okay, I'm not going to defer. I do have them. They will be on my the website. But I do want to bring everybody's attention to a couple of pictures. So if we could go to the Pink Walk. I mean, it was the most amazing day ever. Inspirational, courageous, never give up. I have never been so moved in a very long time. And I want to thank everybody who put that walk on. It was just amazing. And I must say, we look pretty good in pink, just to say the least. I'd like to move on to the next slide. We all had the opportunity to attend the Fire and Rescue Awards ceremony, and it was really exciting to see these 3 individuals honored. Corey Wheeler for Firefighter of the Year, Michelle Fountain for Distinguished Service Award, and Doug Stroh-Snyder for Civilian Employee of the Year. It was a well-attended event, and what an honor and what a fabulous department we have. I also had the opportunity, if you go to the next picture, to attend the Student of the Month for Murrieta. I'll tell you, our future's in good hands with these kids. They are amazing. And it was an honor to represent Murrieta, and I look forward to doing it whenever I'm asked to do it again. And the very last picture is the one I really wanted to note. We went to the annual Rock Your Kids Gala, for the Boys and Girls Club of Southwest County, and I do believe the theme was Under the Sea, and we wore kind of flowing outfits, and Kelly Ciarta wore a nice suit, and my fellow council member down at that end wore flip-flop shorts and a T-shirt because it had a sea turtle on it. So he did dress up. So thank you for being the fun man that night.
In the sea.
Yeah, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Warren. Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. I did not think I would be able to see Ron's calf muscles until about year 3 or 4. That's interesting.
You're welcome.
Yeah. My first slide, I attended the Murrieta Chamber Mixer at Southwest Healthcare Rancho Springs Hospital. I have in there a picture with Mr. Holliday and Liz, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Liz. I can tell you that I am from Louisiana, and this event, you don't earn beads the same way. So it was they had a nice little circus carnival theme here. It was a very fun night. A lot of colleagues from the healthcare industry that I work with were there. So great event. Again, always appreciate the chamber doing stuff like this. Next slide. I attended the Murrieta Temecula group. It's every month. It's a group of people that talk about the region and the industry and kind of events, local stuff going on. This last one, we had a presiding judge from Riverside County, talk about the many new laws that had been passed down and the struggles they were having with finding the appropriate amount of judges to help get the cases through the court system, which seems to be inundated in every single department they have. And then, again, like Councilwoman Warren had shown this event for this Susan Komen breast event was, it's an amazing success. I've been here for 3 of them, I believe now, and this one absolutely had the most people I've ever seen. I forget what street it was, but there's probably, 8,000 people walking on the street alone. Really cool pictures came out of that event. And being the council member with the longest arms, I'm here taking the selfie, obviously, so it's my designated title now. And I had the honor of giving out the #1, is that mine, really? Wow. Okay, sorry, and then I attended the legislative summit with Assemblywoman Sanchez and State Senator Kelly Ciarta and our Congressman Daryl Issa. Really cool, I'm sorry, Issa wasn't there that night. But really cool to have those two talk about the thousands of bills and how they've affected and will affect the state and this region. So that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Holliday.
My announcements are on the website. You can see those. Most of mine, I participated with other council members. I don't want to steal their thunder, so I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Stone talk about my favorite one next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see what picture is going to come up first. Okay, so Council Member Ron Holliday, Cindy Warren, and I stepped in for the mayor for the annual Rod Run, and we selected the mayor's choice, and we selected a 1970 Ford Mustang that Councilman Ron Holliday said it was original. And he also told Councilwoman Warren and I that this car he has seen at auctions go for $200,000. But he just told me right now that it's about $80,000.
There's one for sale for 80, but I don't know what kind of condition it is. It's a Boss 302 Mustang. They only made them for 2 years.
So anywho, it was.
So you can see who picked the mayor's trophy.
Yeah. So it was a really, really, really hot day, but it was absolutely packed in downtown, and it was really nice to see the camaraderie and all the beautiful cars. It was actually really hard to decide. I also attended the Fire and Rescue Awards and Promotion Ceremony. Congratulations to everyone. And yes, we attended the Boys and Girls Club, and yes, Cindy and I put Ron, our council member Holiday, in time out for his attire. And my pictures of Susan G. Komen. There was one picture that I had to show of Councilman Lavelle and I in our little pink wigs.
Where is it?
Hello?
Oh.
Can we see the picture of the Susan G. Komen? Oh, there's there's Boys and Girls Club. There we are. Aren't we just adorable? We're adorable. Anyways, you can view my meetings online, and that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you so much to my fellow colleagues for allowing me a week of amazement at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. I had a blast. Everyone should put that on their bucket list, and please, I think we need that here in Murrieta. It was amazing, 400 balloons, so yes, sorry. Ryan is dying over there. So anyway, just wanted to show a fun picture of all of us at the Cal Cities Conference. And I also was fortunate to, the next slide, to visit for Mayor's Day at the Animal Friends of the Valley. This was my pick, although he was in solitary confinement and I couldn't take him home.
He's adorable.
But he was absolutely adorable. So quite a lot of fun. The new spay and neuter clinic is going to be absolutely amazing. They even have a spay and neuter for bunnies. So, and they have quite a few bunnies for adoption. So what an amazing place. And it was a lot of fun. Next slide. Mayor Pro Tem and I did the Komen ABC News interview, which was a lot of fun with our local Channel 7, which was fantastic. Next slide, I was fortunate to attend the Lake Elsinore State of the City. And moving on to, I was also fortunate to be invited to see Rosetta and the Mount Calvary Missionary Club at the Alleyway, which was absolutely fantastic. We laughed and we cried, and it was fantastic, and it's now been picked up by the Temecula Theater, so that will continue at the Temecula Theater. And then here's the selfie. The next slide is the selfie that John Lavelle is very good at taking for me. Thank you again. And a picture of everyone. The rest of my meetings are listed here, and if you need to reach me, the last slide, eldeforest@murrietaca.gov, or my cell phone. Feel free to call or text me there. So thank you so much. All right. Seeing that we're all done with those, here we go. Moving on to council members' requests to add future agenda items. Now is the time for city council members to request to add items to future agendas. There will be no discussion on requests. A brief explanation of the requests may be given. The merit of the items being requested may not be discussed or debated. Now, are there any requests from any of my colleagues? Council Member Holliday.
During a previous meeting, I requested that information be brought back regarding the Public Entity Risk Management Authority, or PIRMA. I am withdrawing this request for the record, as PIRMA will present to the City Council in the very near future.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On August the 15th, I requested to support for a peanut butter drive be brought back as a future agenda item. As support was received on the dais, I'm withdrawing this request to be brought back as a future agenda item. Without any objections or further discussion, that concludes my request to add items to the future agenda. And I just want to make it clear that our peanut butter drive will happen here in the foyer between the month of November 1st through December the 1st. So if you have an extra jar or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, bring them by.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 19th, I requested the discussion of the city's position on essentially emergency preparedness / COVID protocols back when it first happened, just because I was curious if there was a formal process, and I would like to withdraw that request as a formal discussion, as I'm going to be getting a memo and some updated items from the city for me to review first. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Lavelle. Councilmember Warren.
On August 1st, I requested a discussion on concerns over the French Valley Airport to be brought back as a future agenda item. After meeting with the Riverside County Aviation Division for French Valley Airport this past week, I'm withdrawing this request for the record, as the Riverside County Aviation Division will be coming to the City Council in the near future with a full presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think we're doing some cleanup, aren't we? And on May 2nd, I requested restroom amenities at parks be brought back as future agenda items. For the record, and information was received. I'm withdrawing my request to bring back for a future agenda item without any objections or further discussion. We will move on. And seeing that I am moving now to adjournment. So we would like to adjourn and thank everyone for staying with us all evening and through our candlelight vigil as well. And God bless Israel, and prayers and love to the people.